Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here in the cradle of a great civilization, to be among the Korean people. And I want to say that both the Koreans and the Indians, for many thousands of years, have always believed that the world is one family. And when we see the atmosphere in this hall, people of different nationalities, different groups, the way, the camaraderie, the friendship, I think it is very clear that the ancient Koreans and the ancient Indians were right. The world is indeed one family. And that, I think, lends a special impetus to Dr. Moon's consistent dream of one Korea. A unified world, a unified globe must definitely be preceded by a unified Korea. I want to say that I'm quite convinced after studying the geopolitical trends, after looking at what is happening, that within a few years, I would say, well within our generation, in my view, it is the Korean people are likely to be unified. The only question is how we are going to reach that goal. There are different ways of reaching that goal, and I would just like to examine 3 or 4 of these ways and bring them before you in a spirit of open inquiry. The first is, let us be quite factually honest, and let us admit that all the various rounds of talks that we have had on the whole question of the denuclearization of the DPRK has not worked at all. These talks have not worked for 3 or 4 reasons. One, the talks are taking place in an atmosphere of very little trust between the North Korean side and the side holding the talks, which is mainly the United States, Japan, other countries, and of course, very, very importantly, South Korea. So from that point of view, the talks have started on the basis that first, if you want to prove your bona fides, you have to give up your nuclear weapons. Now, the nuclear weapons will be given up if there is trust. And you cannot, and if there is no trust, they will not be given up. Now, some of us wrote in 2011, we pointed out that in Libya, in Syria, earlier than that in Iraq, what happened, the kind of regime change that took place there is going to create a view in Pyongyang that if you give up your WMD, you are going to suffer the same fate as what happened to the dictators of Iraq, the dictators of Libya, and what was planned for Mr. Assad of Syria, but which, with the help of China and Russia, he has escaped. So the reality of the situation is the talks have gone nowhere, and the talks are also likely to go nowhere. I don't believe that we can have several rounds of these discussions, we can have several rounds of these talks, but I do not really believe they are going to lead to any kind of a conclusion. In fact, the second problem is that the talks, when you have a talks, it's always, in a sense, the background of the talks is the policy of sanctions. Now, the sanctions have certainly utility and value so far as harming the interests of North Korea, harming the interests of the elite of North Korea are concerned. But one effect of the sanctions has been very clear, and that is that when you deny the North Koreans the means of getting money and getting funds through the normal processes of trade, you are driving them into the underground economy. You are driving them into black marketing. You are driving them into criminal enterprises. And the more you sanction them, the greater the incentive for them to go into criminal activities, to go into this kind of underground economy, to start talking in terms of terror players, to talk of narcotic smugglers, to talk of various anti-state, anti-national, anti-societal groups, purely in order to raise the money needed to fund a program that they believe is essential for the survival of the regime. So the reality of the situation is that when we are talking of sanctions, at the same time we are saying the sanctions are why? Because North Korea is a rogue state. we must understand that by many of these sanctions, and I'm not saying the sanctions are good or bad, I'm simply pointing out a fact that today North Korea has become a facilitator for every security threat in the world. Whether it is as a facilitator for nuclear proliferation, whether it is as a facilitator for providing armaments and weapons to terror groups and to non-state actors across the world, whether it is as a facilitator to those who are interested in developing chemical and biological weapons, who are up to no good purpose, whether some state actors, some non-state actors, practically every threat in the world, the North Korean regime has inserted itself purely for the sake of raising funds, again, as I said, for a program which it absolutely believes is essential to its survival. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we are all agreed that for human beings, for all life as a matter of fact, survival is the strongest instinct. There is no instinct stronger than the instinct of survival, and this instinct is very strong in the North Korean leadership led by the current, what they call themselves, the supreme leader of North Korea, Mr. Kim Jong-un. So this is the one, all these various rounds of talks have proceeded from the belief that to show good faith, the North Koreans must first denuclearize. Now, in a situation where they do not have trust in the global community, in a situation where, frankly, in my opinion, the global community has made big mistakes in Libya, big mistakes in Syria, big mistakes in Iraq, some mistakes in Afghanistan. And we are seeing the impact of that in the migration flows. We are seeing the impact of that in the growth of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. In this situation, frankly, you are not going to build trust by telling them that, look, if you want a negotiation with us, first surrender. First, give us what we want, and then we can have a negotiation. Unfortunately for us, they do not believe such a stand is reasonable. They are not going to accept it. So I do not believe there is any way through this kind of negotiation of slowing down the North Korean nuclear program. The more sanctions you impose, the more criminal activity they will do, the more money they will raise, and now you can do it through hacking of banks, you can do it through cryptocurrencies, you can do it through the online world, and therefore that's a very rich source of money. The more you are going to make sure that they indulge in these activities. So frankly, the sanctions also, let us be honest, are not working, have not worked, and in my view are unlikely to work in the future, except that they are going to make the lives of the people of North Korea, already miserable, even more miserable. I'm not saying that, we should give up talks. I'm not saying we should give up sanctions. I'm only saying we must be realistic and face the reality of where these talks have gone over these 25 years, where these sanctions have gone over these 25 years. We cannot live in a romantic world in which we keep believing that tomorrow they're going to be successful. It's almost like a gambler. Each time I lose in gambling, I go and bet again in the belief that this time my gamble is going to pay off. Well, we have been gambling now for a generation, and this gamble has not paid off. I, as an analyst, do not believe it's ever going to pay off. So we are confronted with a situation in which, frankly, talks are not very effective. We are confronted with a situation in which sanctions, from the point of view of stopping the North Korean nuclear program, are not very effective. So where do we go from here? Again, as I said, I have done my analyses, and I would like to congratulate Dr. Moon. So many of these views that I'm expressing are not views that he shares. Many of these views are views that he frankly dislikes intensely. But being a democratic individual, being a scholar himself, he would like to ensure that these views be heard. So now, it's in that spirit, frankly, I believe, that he has invited me. And I would like to say, Dr. Moon, I appreciate that spirit. And that spirit is, in my view, part of the spirit of the two great countries that are fused in you, the ancient civilization of Korea and the very great modern civilization of the United States. But let us go on now to this whole question of North Korea. One, the way the North Korean program is developing, a time is each day that we are delaying a resolution. And frankly, by resolution, when I say that sanctions are no use, when I say that talks are no use, the only other resolution can be surrender to Kim Jong-un or go to war against Kim Jong-un. The only two options are surrender or war. We are talking, this is the frank truth. Now, every month that we are delaying, the cost and damage of ensuring that there is a war to prevent North Korea from going nuclear, the cost and damage of that is rising and rising steadily. According to some of the calculations that I made with the help of some of my research associates and students, the best time, frankly, was during the Bush years, the last 2 years of George Bush, in which relatively painlessly the nuclear program could have been taken out by military force. By the 6th or 7th year of the Obama administration, the painless solution, a relatively painless solution, is in my view, over. There will be considerable pain for any kind of a military action against North Korea. And every month that that action is put off, every year that that action is put off, the cost of that action is going to rise. And of course, I'm not the expert on Korea. I'm frankly not at all. The experts on Korea are here. But from my very limited understanding and contact, out there, it is my view that the main target of North Korea is not really South Korea. I think the North Koreans are still Koreans. They are North Koreans, but still Koreans. And I think there's a very strong Korean feeling in them. I think the targets are Japan, and the targets are the United States. And South Korea, in my view, is not really a target. China is definitely not a target. I know that we have friends here from the People's Republic of China. It's a great country, a country I visit 4 or 5 times a year. I do not believe China is a target or Russia is a target of North Korea, frankly, because both China and Russia have been historically very helpful to North Korea. And whether you're North Korean or South Korean, the Korean people never forget a favor done by a friend. The Korean people always remember that. So let us remember, these are Koreans. These are not people from another planet. These are not people from a entirely different kind of human being. These are Koreans. So from that point of view, the North Korean nuclear program, in my view, poses a minimal threat to China and Russia. I would like to use the word zero, but zero is not used in analysis because zero does not exist in analysis. But I would like to say asymptotic to zero. The risk to China and the risk to Russia of the North Korean nuclear program is extremely low. The risk to Japan and the risk to the United States is high and becoming higher. The risk to South Korea is actually a collateral risk. As a consequence of the risk to Japan and the United States, there is a collateral risk to South Korea, and that risk is also, unfortunately, there and growing. The point I'm trying to make is, let's not kid ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves by talking about various hypothetical possibilities that have not come true in the past and are not going to come true in the future. Let us accept the reality of one, every month that we delay a military solution to the issue of denuclearizing the Kim Jong-un regime, every month the collateral damage, the risks, and the human cost is going to go up. And if we wait for 1 year, if we wait for 2 years, the damage is going to go up. At what stage is it going to be? At what stage of cost? And I'm sure there are people in the Pentagon, there are people, definitely South Korea has got an extremely good military, very sound kind of analysis. There are people who are calculating that cost. At what cost, at what stage will they say, sorry, the military option is no longer an option? In my view, we are getting to be fairly close to that state. I had made this kind of a comment, in fact, last time I was here. I'm not going to put a number to it, or 1 year or 2 years, but I would say we are getting close to a situation in which no realistic, rational individual is going to talk about a military action. Now, take, for example, this latest, the latest missile launch. The analysis that we see in the newspapers is that this is a launch that is basically showing North Korean capacity against the United States. My own assessment is different. It is basically showing the United States that they can, even today, create havoc in Japan. And if they create havoc in Japan, they are creating havoc against a staunch ally of the United States. They are creating havoc against American soldiers and American troops in Japan, in Guam, and other territories. So I think, frankly, the message to the United States was not that we can attack you, because that is not going to happen for quite some time, maybe 2 years, maybe a little more than 2 years. But they are basically saying that even today, in December 2017, we have the capacity to inflict serious harm on Japan and serious harm on US military assets in Japan and Guam. I think that was the message they conveyed, because the Kim Jong-un regime is also very keen on crossing that red line. And when I say a red line, it's not a red line of action. It's a red, I mean, I don't know if I can call it a red line. Maybe you can call it a black line. A black line of inaction. A line which, once Pyongyang crosses that line, the global community will be paralyzed into inaction because of the sheer cost of what that will involve. As I said, my own estimate, which in the paper that I'm presenting in this thing, was 28 to 30 months at the outer limit, frankly, of the North Korean regime being able to do significant damage on the entire United States. The question is, even damage on Japan, is that the black line, or has it got to be significant damage on the mainland United States? Is that the black line? What the black line is, I do not know, except to say there must be a black line which, once crossed, results in paralysis of several options, and several options just go off the table. Now, if we are serious about a military option, it's one matter. If we are simply talking about a military option, and I think we've been hearing this talk for a very long time, the North Koreans have been hearing it, I mean, all of us in the global community have been hearing it, then I have a different point of view to make. And that different point of view is very, very simple, that look, if you are not going to talk of military action during a defined timetable, during a clear timetable in which the collateral damage is still bearable, because I repeat, my thesis is very clear: talks are useless, sanctions are useless. Given that, the only option, if you want to denuclearize, is a military option, and that option is running out of time. It is heading towards that black line. Once you cross, you can't do the option anymore because the costs are too high. If you are not serious about it, then in my view, the entire approach towards Pyongyang is the approach of, of sanctions, threats, that kind of thing. Unless these threats are credible, unless there is a very clear plan of meeting them and of actualizing the threats, unless there is a clear strategy and a clear timeline, these threats are worse than useless, because they only incentivize the regime to go even faster in their criminal activities, to go even faster in giving nuclear proliferation, cyber, in different ways, create and help criminal syndicates across the world in order to ensure a speedier completion of a stage at which they can feel themselves immune. So by the kind of tough talk that you're hearing, in the absence of action, you are creating the very kind of behavior which you are saying that you want to prevent. And this is where, frankly, another concept of mine comes in. And again, as I said, I salute Dr. Moon for his open-mindedness in allowing me to make this kind of a comment here in this kind of an audience. I know it's not going to be very popular. And that is, you know, I really have not seen a sunshine policy. I've seen an evening sunshine policy. Even the 10 years of the so-called sunshine policy was the kind of sunshine that we see in the evening before it disappears. And that sunshine disappeared. So, and you know, in my view, the only kind of sunshine policy that will be effective is what I would define as bright noonday sunshine. That is a clear effort to bring in North Korea into the global system, bring in North Korea into the trading system, try and encourage people-to-people contacts between, you know, North Korea and, in the first instance, North Korea and South Korea. It is heartbreaking to see how many families in both the Koreas are suffering so terribly because of this geopolitical divide between a united people, between a basically united people. So the point is very, very clear. The point is, why did that policy not work? Because it was not really a sunshine policy. It was an evening sunshine policy, and we know that the evening, the sunlight, it was, I would call it a sunlight policy, not a sunshine policy. There was some sunlight, but there was no real shining light in that policy. We need, if you are keeping the military option off the table, and I would like to say very clearly, I have, for at least the last 2 years, favored the military option. I still favor the military option. I believe that is the best possible option from the point of view of global security and also from the point of view of Korean unification. I would like to say I 100% still favor that option. But if that option exists only in words and in gestures and not in fact, I think it is important for us to understand that a policy of, you know, of what do I say? I mean, it has to be sunshine. It cannot be just the twilight or an evening light, which is what the sunshine policy of 10 years was. It was a twilight, it was an evening light, and we all know the evening light does not last. The evening light is not very bright, and it disappears. The North Koreans also knew it, and they did not respond. Now, I want to say a third kind of thing based on the kind of research and the kind of activities and the kind of contacts that I've been having that. And again, these are, I mean, this is from the point of view of a scholar from India. You know, we have a slightly different approach from our friends in the United States. We have a very different approach from our friends in China or Japan. In my view, it is very, you know, there's a difference between the current supreme leader and his predecessor. His predecessor was more in the Soviet mold. This gentleman, it's very hard to categorize him as being in any particular mold. It's very hard to categorize him, which basically means that the predecessor was having a mental predisposition that the Sovietized state, Soviet kind of industry, Soviet kind of socialist pattern of society was a superior pattern of society. We see that in the case of the Castro brothers. I mean, Cuba has got this tremendous advantage of being right next to the United States. And yes, the United States has, to some extent, at fault, but in large part, Castro himself has been at fault for not really, you know, giving the hand of friendship in a very comprehensive way to the United States, because had he done that, I can tell you, Cuba would have been today one of the most prosperous countries in the world, rather than, frankly, a basket case in economics. So from that point of view, in my view, the predecessor of the current gentleman who is in charge of the regime in North Korea was not able to actualize the potential of a policy which itself was a little half-hearted, but not able to actualize it, whereas this gentleman possibly could be in a situation of actualizing it. So I simply want to say, in brief, one, the nostrums, the remedies of the past have not worked for 25 years, will not work. In 25 months, it may be too late to do anything about it, except the fact that you have got a nuclear North Korea under Kim Jong-un. And therefore, either we go in for a military option, or if we are not thinking of a military option, we go in for what I call a bright sunshine policy. Thank you very much.
예, 감사합니다. 한반도 문제에 대한 깊은 통찰 속에 코리안 드림 비전을 중심한 원코리아 실현의 비전과 프레임을 제시해 주신 날라팟 박사님께 다시 한번 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 다음은 두 번째 기조연설의 순서가 되겠습니다. 두 번째 기조연설은 1986년부터 1991년까지 과테말라 대통령을 역임하시고 현재 그 중앙아메리카 대통령 회의를 통해서 중미 통합재단의 사무총장으로 활발하게 활동하고 계시는 마르코 비니시오 세레소 과테말라 전 대통령께서 해 주시겠습니다. 여러분 나오실 때 큰 박수로 환영해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Dear friends of Global Peace Foundation, dear friends who are coming to this meeting to find a way to reunify Korea, and you can do it. Dear Mr. Moon, whose vision of one family under God and powerful dream and purpose of one Korea, work that always been accompanied and strengthened by his distinguished wife, Mrs. Moon, all these also possible thanks to your effort, added to the understanding of the world family and the work of the team of Global Peace Foundation, my friends. It's a great honor to be meeting with you to talk about the vision of the peaceful reunification of Korea and the multi-sectorial participation in this process. This particular topic transcends our present with ideas that, if they become a reality, will mark a before and an after in the history of Korea and the world. For me, it is a pleasure because I have shared Dr. Moon's vision of a single Korea for a long time. In recent years, I have had the opportunity to accompany the issue from civil society through the Esquipulas Foundations for Peace, Democracy, Development, and Integration. Since July of this year, life has given me a new opportunity to continue serving from the government space at the head of the General Secretariat of the Central American Integration System. However, I am here like Vincicio Cerezo, a friend of Korea, a human being and global citizen, we could say, who believes in the vision of one family under God and who has embraced peace as a solution of a lifestyle. For that reason, I believe that the destiny of Korea for the welfare of his people is reunification. This is the way for Korea. Today is a special day dedicated to a deep reflection on the role of all sectors of society to achieve the reunification of two brotherly territories guided by the principles of solidarity and cooperation. It is not about isolated actions, but the joint actions of one of the greatest events in contemporary history, this event. It is very important for the future of North Korea, because we learned in Central America that if we talked, if we dialogue, if we give confidence between us, we could get and arrive to peaceful solutions for our problems. The peaceful reunification of Korea can go from being a dream for this and the future generations to become a reality and the overwhelming strategic decision to achieve stability, economic growth, a sustainable development in the entire Korean Peninsula and for all the persons in the North as well as in the South. The Inter-Korean Summits of 2000 and 2007 mark historic milestones for both territories and signaled a route guaranteeing peace, cooperation, and promoted dialogue. There is a way to get these goals. The division between North and South Korea since 1948 can be an episode in history, but not a manifested destiny. There have many moments on war and domination with which this history has been written, but these do not have to be one of them. The unification is not a recent idea. On the contrary, since the separation, there have been attempts to achieving it, nevertheless, many of them by force. Korea needs leadership that can see in this moment the opportunity to recover the leading role of peace and dialogue, of being vigilant and architects of their destiny and lead the country into a glorious and just path. I consider Dr. Moon one of those leaders, in accordance with the social, economic, and cultural wealth on which you are a part and characterize you as an example to the world in many fields. Undoubtedly, these leaderships do not come only from governments. If we really want deep transformations that will make this dream a reality, it is imperative that from the start, it is embrace the participation of civil society, academia, and the private sector who has and will have a lot to say and to do. In the midst of uncertainty generated by different economic, social, and political contexts, of which we are witnesses and protagonists in the different regions, the reunification of Korea under a democratic model that promotes peace and liberty will undoubtedly be an inspiration and will renew our hope that a better world is possible. A better world is possible. The world advances towards the future on the efforts of the Sustainable Development Agenda, with objectives and goals that all the countries agreed to. There is no better moment than this to unite for a greater purpose than our ideologies. In every corner of the planet, we are called to build bridges instead of walls. This is the real things we have to do. Create bridges, not walls, in any country of the world and in every region. In Central America, 8 countries gambled for regional integration as the way to achieve development. We want a region free of armed conflicts, a Central America common market, a multi-destination tourism and regional opportunities. Peace is a flag that we raised in Central America in the 80s with the Esquipulas Accords. After a long period of armed conflicts, migrations, irreparable loss of human life, and great consequences to the economies of our countries. The decade of the 90s started with the opportunity to renew our vote for democracy and integration with the creation of the Central American integration system that substitute other integration systems that we had in the history for more solid, integral, juridical, and institutional vision. And we found this vision in getting confidence through the dialogue and trying to talk about goals, development goals in between. Because if we have common goals, we are going to get confidence and we can build the peace process that we need in every part of the country. It is not an easy job, but it's possible. When we constantly remind ourselves that we share a history, values, territories, economies, and above all, persons that wish to live a dignified and secure life, definitely when we realize that despite any difference that we can define all of us without any exception, we are part of one family under God. The cost of isolated thinking translate to lost opportunities to insert ourselves in the international market, strengthen our ties of cooperation, and above all provide benefits to our peoples that are maximized at the regional scale. This is These are the things we have to show the other part who are in the different position that we are, that we can together get all of those goals in the benefits of our people despite the confrontation and the violence. For this, in Central America since 2010, we have worked on 5 pillars that give integrity to this process. These are economic integration, social integration, democratic security, integrated disaster risk management and climate change and institutional strengthening. We have to change the traditional goals because we are not in the Cold War. This is the past that we have to live outside of our mind. We have to work, looking these pillars, we have to work to give the people of our countries the benefits of development countries and not the suffering of the war like in the past. Central America represents the 5th economy in Latin America, and next week in Argentina, 5 of 8 member countries of the Central American region will sign a free trade agreement with South Korea, the 4th largest economy in Asia. Without a doubt, we continue building bridges. There are many scenarios to explore, but our will remains more firm than ever to advance in the Sustainable Development Agenda in harmony with the commitment to the 2030 Agenda promoted by the United Nations. We started by the path to peace when we ended the armed conflicts. Now we are seeking a more ambitious objective, attain sustainable development for our peoples. Central America stands in solidarity with all those initiatives that promote peace, liberty, democracy, and development, and that's why I am here in this forum, because we are supporting those efforts in any country through the dialogue and getting confidence with the others. This forum reflects the will to know and to understand from what is happening from the history told by those who live it. Spaces like these are necessary to achieve our ambitious and visionary objectives, where we can reflect on the realities of a more complex scenario beyond the preconceived paradigm of the Cold War. The Cold War, I say it again, is the past. We are looking and fighting for the future of our people. We have to believe that this is possible. We have to ratify our conviction that we are one family under God, and we must consolidate our aspirations for peace, and in the case of Hyun, for the reunification of Korea. To you who made this space possible and work day by day to ensure a climate of peace and increasing trust in this important region of the world, I extend my most sincere congratulations and my solidarity in the name of Central America. As they said, my ancestor, the Mayan civilization, may all rise up, let no one be left behind. We have to be all together looking for peace and reunification in this region. I am with you. Central America is with you. Latin America Presidential Mission is also with you. You are not alone. We are all together with you. Thank you very much.
예, 감사합니다. 마르코 세레소 과테말라 대통령님께서는 한반도 통일에 대한 그 누구보다도 큰 열망과 또 지지를 현장 활동을 통해서 실천해 나오셨습니다. 특히 그 중남미 국가의 개발과 평화 증진을 위한 프레지던셜 미션의 회장으로도 활동을 하시고 또 문현진 의장과 더불어서 원코리아 실현을 위한 세계적인 지도자들의 연대 협력을 이끌어내는 데 앞장서 나오셨습니다. 다시 한번 큰 박수로 감사를 표해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 이제 마지막 기조연설의 순서가 되겠습니다. 기조연설을 해주실 문현진 글로벌 피스 재단의 창설 의장님을 소개해 올리도록 하겠습니다. 문현진 의장님은 한반도의 명운을 가를 이 시대 전 세계 우려와 관심이 이곳 한반도에 집중되어 있는 바로 지금 코리안 드림 비전을 중심으로 연대 협력을 통해서 위기 속에서 원코리아 실현의 기회를 잡아야 된다고 역설을 하시고 또 앞장서서 활동을 해 나가고 계십니다. 문현진 의장님은 2009년 글로벌 피스 재단의 창설 이후 지구촌 전역에서 실질적인 평화운동을 전개해 나오셨습니다. 특별히 세계적인 종교와 문화적 전통 속에서 내재된 보편적 원칙과 가치를 체득시킴으로써 하나님 아래 인류 한 가족의 비전을 전 세계적으로 확산시켜 정체성에 근거한 갈등과 폭력을 초종교적인 협력을 통해 해결하는 혁신적인 리더십을 제시해 나오셨습니다. 이런 공로로 2013년 유엔으로부터 특별상을 수상하시기도 했습니다. 특별히 한민족의 건국 정신인 홍익인간에 기초한 통일 한반도의 비전 코리안 드림을 제시하시고 2012년 그 실행을 위해 통일을 실천하는 사람들의 창립을 제안하고 또 주도하셨고 그 이후 현재까지 지속적으로 후견하심으로써 국내는 물론 국제적으로 원코리아 비전 실현의 챔피언으로 활동해 나오고 계십니다. 여러분 문현진 의장님을 힘찬 박수로 환영해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Distinguished partners of the Global Peace Foundation,
조명하신 그리고 고귀하신 글로벌 피스 재단의 파트너이신 귀빈 여러분,
honorable National Assembly members,
그리고 한국 국회의 의원 여러분,
all the sponsoring organizations and agencies that are participating in this conference.
이 국제회의에 참석하신 모든 파트너와 또 주간 행사 단체장 여러분 감사합니다.
Congratulations for this noble effort. Let's give everyone a round of applause.
이런 훌륭한 목표를 놓고 함께해 주신 데 진심으로 감사드립니다. 모든 분들에게 박수를 부탁드립니다.
As the previous speakers have suggested, we live in precarious times.
앞선 모든 분들이 말씀하셨던 것 같이 지금 우리는 굉장히 위기의 시대에 살고 있습니다.
I believe that, especially here in Korea, South Korea, many of us are numb to the fact that we have been dealing with the threat of potential conflict on the peninsula ever since the armistice in 1953.
그러나 안타깝게도 특히 이곳 한국은 평화협정을 이룬 이후 지금까지 엄청난 그런 위협 속에서 살고 있음에도 불구하고 그러한 위협에 대해서 무감각해졌습니다.
So it's very easy for us to once again fall back into the old frameworks of thinking that we have been enduring and living through for the last 70 years.
그렇기 때문에 지난 70여 년간 살아왔던 그러한 체제와 그러한 현상 속에 그저 안주하기 되다니 쉬운 상황입니다.
But one of the things that we need to be aware of today is that the entire calculus has changed.
그러나 우리가 분명히 인식해야 될 것은 지금 현재 상황은 과거와는 전혀 다른 그러한 계산법을 동원해야 된다는 것입니다.
As a student of history, especially in my senior year at Columbia University, I wrote and did research of my honors research paper on the interwar years between 1945 to 1950 and the outbreak of the Korean War.
역사학도로서 특히 저의 졸업 논문으로서 한국의 해방과 또 한국 동란 사이의 5년간의 그러한 그 한국을 중심으로 한 미국의 대외 정책을 중심한 그러한 연구 논문, 졸업 논문을 작성하였습니다.
And of course, because my family had been steeped in not only Korea's fight for liberation under the colonial yoke of Japan, but also thereafter to try to bring peace on the peninsula. This had been an interest of mine ever since I was a young boy. And as a student, I earnestly sought to understand what was the fundamental issues that were arising after Korea achieved liberation from Japan.
저희 집안 내력상 저희 선조께서도 한국의 독립운동에 직접 관여를 하셨고 또 그 이후에 한국이 독립된 이후에도 공산주의와 싸웠던 그런 이력 때문에 저는 어렸을 때부터 한국에 대한 관심을 가졌고 특히나 무엇보다도 이러한 그 상황이 독립 이후에 벌어진 상황의 원인이 무엇인가에 대한 연구를 하였습니다.
Because although Korea is an ancient civilization that goes back 5,000 years,
왜냐하면 한국은 5,000년의 역사를 갖고 있는 그러한 민족이기 때문입니다.
for the last 70 years, the division of the Korean Peninsula has been a reality that Koreans on both sides of the border, north and south, have been living with.
그런데 그럼에도 불구하고 지난 70년간의 현실은 남북 국민들이 원하지 않은 그 주어진 그런 상황이었던 것입니다.
And yet, even when Koreans speak of the issues today, they speak within that framework, within the narrative of that division.
그리고 지금 그러한 상황 속에서 통일의 문제를 논의할 때도 그런 그 역사적인 관점이 아니라 이 70년간 주어진 이런 상황 속에서만 논의를 하고 있는 그런 안타까운 현실입니다.
What happened after 1945 is a tragedy when you look at Korean history from its beginning to that point in human history.
한국 역사 처음부터 45년도까지를 놓고 봤을 때 45년도에 벌어진 상황은 한민족에 대한 대단히 큰 비극이었습니다.
The separation of the Korean people was not the desire or the wish of the Korean people, but it was a foreign construct imposed on the Korean people at a time when they were hopeful that finally a nation that was subjugated, that was stripped of its identity, a people that had their dreams shattered and hopes shattered, could finally realize the dream that had animated these people for 5,000 years.
1945년도의 상황은 벌어졌던 상황은 그런 한민족의 염원과는 상관없이 외부 강대국의 그런 이권에 의해서 한민족에게 주어졌던 상황입니다. 그런 그 일제 압제 속에서 한민족의 정체성과 또 5,000년간 소망했던 꿈을 이루지 못하고 그 방황했던 그런 시대를 벗어나서 이제 드디어 그 5,000년의 역사 속에 담겨진 소망을 실현할 수 있는 그런 나라를 건설했던 소망을 가졌던 그런
The
상황이었습니다.
division of the Korean people represents that tragedy.
그런데 그 남북한의 분단은 그러한 꿈을 이루지 못하게 되었던 그런 비극을 의미하는 것입니다.
And yet today, even South Koreans look upon that division as if it is a reality that they have to accept.
그런데 안타깝게도 지금 한국인들은 이러한 이 현실을 그저 당연히 받아들여야 되는 것으로 생각하고 있다는 것입니다.
When I started this unification movement in 2010, the first key issue that we had to address was to build a vision that allows the Korean people and all sincere, well-intentioned individuals, nations, and parties that want to resolve the problem on the Korean Peninsula to recognize first and foremost that the ideological construct of the Cold War was no longer relevant for not only the Korean people, but for this age.
2010년도에 제가 이 통일운동을 시작하였을 때 그때는 그런 모든 한국의 양식 있고 또 통일을 바라는 그런 염원을 가진 모든 분들에게 공감할 수 있는 비전을 제시하고 특히나 한반도를 분단시켰던 그 냉전 시대의 그런 그 시각과 관점이 더 이상 이 한반도 문제를 해결하는데 적용돼서 안 된다라는 공감을 만들어내는
What was
것이었습니다.
needed was a vision that could unite the Korean people north and south.
남한 국민뿐만 아니라 북한 국민들까지도 함께 통합할 수 있는 그런 비전이 필요한
That
것입니다.
was not tainted by any foreign constructs.
그리고 강대국의 그런 외부의 그런 그 영향력에 그런 그 오염되지 않은 그러한 비전인 것입니다.
But was uniquely Korean
그러면서 동시에 또 한국적인
and
그런
had
비전이어야 합니다.
defined the identity of the Korean people.
한국민의 정체성을 규정해주는 독특한 한국의 그런 비전이어야 하는
The
것입니다.
book I authored in 2014 under the Korean Dream, title of the Korean Dream, was an effort to build that vision.
제가 2014년도에 코리안 드림이라는 제목으로 출간한 그 책은 바로 이러한 비전을 제시하기 위한 노력이었습니다.
Now remember, up until that time, there was no Korean dream.
그때까지 코리안 드림이라는 정확한 개념과 그런 용어가 없었습니다.
In that book, in dealing with the issue of unification, I touched upon the history of the Korean people. Most importantly, the founding mythology upon which the Korean people's identity and national sense of destiny was formed.
제가 그 책에서 통일의 문제를 논의하면서 한국의 역사를 언급하였습니다. 무엇보다도 한국민의 정체성과 또 한국의 운명에 대한 그러한 역사를
홍익인간, which is known to all
설명했습니다.
Koreans,
이 홍익인간의 비전은 모든 한국 사람들이 다 알고
became a
있습니다.
word that was recognized by the rest of the world.
그리고 점점 더 전 세계가 인식 깨닫게 되는 그러한 홍익인간의 단어입니다. 표현입니다.
And it articulated this national destiny and vision upon which I wrote that book.
그 안에 그런 한국인의 정체성과 운명을 담은 그런 비전인 것입니다. 그것을 준다고 제가 이 책을 썼던 것입니다.
That book was a vision of a unified peninsula,
그 책은 통일된 한국의 비전을 제시하는 것입니다.
of a unified people
그리고 통일된 국민의 그런 비전인 것입니다.
that has a shared destiny to serve all humanity and set a model nation for all nations to follow.
그 비전은 한국민이 전 세계를 위해서 봉사하는, 전 세계 모든 인류를 위해서 살아가는 그러한 나라를 세우는 비전인 것입니다.
We heard speakers from the international community.
전 세계 모신 분들의 저명한 그런 분들의 연설을 들었습니다.
They've pointed out very clearly that today we live in precarious times.
그분들 모두 다 지금 우리는 굉장히 그런 위험한 시기에 살고 있다는 것을 지적하였습니다.
Right now, the United States and North Korea are on a course of conflict,
지금
headed towards conflict.
미국과 북한은 좀 결정적인 그런 그 갈등의 정면에서 지금 치닫고 있는 상황입니다.
With the historic trip of the American president to Asia and especially to South Korea, he articulated the American agenda of his administration.
트럼프 대통령이 역사적인 아시아 방문, 특히 한국을 방문했을 때 미국 국가의 그런 국책을 발표했습니다.
That the United States will not allow the North Korea to be a nuclear threat to the United States or any of its allies.
트럼프 대통령은 북한이 미국과 미국의 우방국가 어느 나라에게도 그런 핵을 가지고 위협하지 않도록 만들겠다고
What that
선언했습니다.
means, we have yet to see.
그것이 정확히 무엇을 의미하는지는 두고 봐야 할 것입니다.
Of course, Kim Jong-un's administration, as well as his fathers and his grandfathers, had been looking towards the development of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology.
김일성과 김정일부터 현 김정은 정부까지 핵무기 개발을 추진해 나왔었습니다.
Yet, the commitment for nuclear weapons and the ability to attack the United States has sped up in exponential rates under the Kim Jong-un administration.
그런데 특별히 김정은 지금 체제 하에서 그 핵무기 개발을 하고 그것을 또 대륙간 탄도탄을 통해서 다른 나라를 공격할 수 있는 그런
They are
기술력이
steadfast
급격히
in their
발전했습니다.
commitment to develop a nuclear North Korea.
그런 북한을 완전히 핵무장 국가로 인정받도록 만들려는 야심을 갖고 있습니다.
Under this scenario, there's only two options.
이러한 상황 속에서 옵션은 두 개밖에 없습니다.
Either through some type of diplomacy, North Korea stops its nuclear program,
어떤 외교 정책 관계를 통해서 북한이 더 이상 핵무기를 개발하지 않든지
or there's conflict.
아니면 갈등이 벌어지는 것입니다.
So the issues that Dr. Nalapat raises are very real.
그렇기 때문에 날라팟 교수님께서 제시한 그러한 그 문제점은 굉장히 현실적인 문제인 것입니다.
Yet, being a person who believes in God and in destiny and in providence, and especially somebody who believes and has faith in the Korean people, in the destiny of the Korean people, I believe that there's an alternative option, and that this crisis can turn into an opportunity that can finally end the cruel chapter of the divided Koreas that had been imposed upon the Korean people. That this can be a time where Koreans can be in charge of their own destiny, to help to architect and define their own future, a future that is not divided, but is united as one, that realizes their providential charge
그리고 하나님을
in the vision of Hogingan to be the benefit to all humanity.
하나님을 믿고 또 하나님의 섭리를 믿고 또 신앙을 갖고 있는 사람으로서, 특히나 한국민들을 믿고 한국의 그런 그 운명을 믿는 사람으로서 이러한 그 결정적인 위기가 오히려 하나님 그 한국민에게 주어진 한국인의 정체성과 그런 그 민족적 운명을 실현해서 전 세계에 희망을 줄 수 있는 그런 홍익인간, 모든 인류를 평화롭게 할 수 있는 그런 홍익인간의 이상을 완성할 수 있는, 실현할 수 있는 그런 이상국가, 통일된, 분열되지 않은 통일된 하나의 그런 국가를 만들 수 있는 기회가 될 수 있다고 저는 확신합니다.
You know, as a student of history, there are moments in time that can define an age.
제가 역사를 공부한 입장에서 볼 때 그런 인류 역사에 있어서 그런 인류 역사의 한 시대를 결정하는 그러한 시기들이 있었습니다.
I believe we live in such a time.
지금 저는 우리가 바로 그러한 역사를 결정하는 시대에 살고 있다고 저는 믿습니다.
For the first time in the geopolitics of this region, the most influential nations of this region and the world are recognizing the importance of the peninsular issue.
이 한반도를 중심한 그런 지정학적인 역할을 놓고 봤을 때 지금 처음으로 이 현 지역에 가장 영향력을 미치는 나라와 세계가 한반도에 관심을 갖고 집중을 하고 있는 때입니다.
As a Korean who lives in America, for the first time in my memory, and as a student of American history and American foreign policy, for the first time in American foreign policy, there is a fundamental shift. Korea is no longer an afterthought of American foreign policy, but Korea is the most important priority in American foreign policy.
미국에 살고 있는 한국인으로서, 그리고 또 미국의 역사를 공부하고 미국의 대외 정책을 공부한 그런 역사학도로서 제가 기억하는 한 처음으로 한국이 미국 대외 정책에 있어서 그러한 그 부차적인 그러한 그 관심이 아니라 최고 중심된 최고 우위의 관심으로 부각했다는 점입니다.
So instead of talking about penny, let's talk about facts of what's happening geopolitically in this region today.
그래서 한반도를 중심한 이 지역에 그러한 그 어떤 일이 벌어지고 있는지 그런 사실들을 한번 체크해 봅시다.
For the first time in this region's history, the United States had China agree to financial banking sanctions of North Korea.
처음으로 미국이 중국이 그러한 그 북한에 대한 금융 제재에 동의하도록 만들었습니다.
Never was there this level of cooperation between the two most important powers within this region, the United States and China.
이 지역의 가장 강력한 그러한 그 중심 국가인 미국과 중국이 한 번도 이러한 문제에 동의한 적이 없었습니다.
Now, although
과거에.
I like Dr. Nalapat, I believe these banking and financial sanctions will have huge implications for North Korea.
날라파트 박사님의 의견을 존중하지만 저는 이 북한에 대한 금융 제재가 굉장히 큰 영향을 미칠 거라고 저는 생각합니다.
I think we need to start off by realizing that North Korea is a rogue state.
물론
And they have been engaged in all the activities that all the civilized nations of the world frown upon and have basically reprimanded North Korea on. And that will not change.
물론 북한이 모든 전 세계가 그래 언짢아하고 기분 나빠하는 그런 불량 국가, 테러를 지하는
But
국가라는 사실은
instead of
변함이
looking
없습니다.
at the increase of the black market in North Korea as a negative, I look at it as a positive.
그런 북한의 이런 경제 제재를 통한 그런 암시장이 확산되는 것을 저는 부정적이기보다는 긍정적으로 바라봅니다.
Very much like what happened in the Soviet Union, where the free world sanctions on the Soviet bloc led to the rise of black markets that then led to the inflow of information to the general people of the Soviet Union that made them understand that their system was not as good as the systems in the West.
과거의 소련과 소련의 그런 그 동서 그 위성 국가들에 대해서 서방이 경제 제재를 가했을 때 그 경제 제재를 통해서 암시장이 활성화됐고
Today,
암시장을
we have
통해서 모든
multimedia
정보가
technology that did
국민들에게
not exist
전달되었습니다.
10 to 20 years ago.
근데 지금은 10년, 20년 전에 존재하지 않았던 그러한 그 멀티미디어가 존재하는 세상입니다.
Today, all you need is a cell phone,
지금은 스마트폰만 있으면 됩니다.
and you have access to the rest of the world.
그렇다면 서방 세계의 그러한 모든 내용들을 접할 수 있게 됩니다.
What will happen with the rise or the increase of the black market in North Korea?
북한 안에서의 암시장이 더 활성화되고 증가되면 어떻게 되겠습니까?
Every dictatorial regime, the thing that they fear of the most is not having control over their population.
모든 독재 정권이 가장 두려워하는 것은 자기 그 국민들을 통제하지 못하는 것입니다.
You're going to see the erosion of the Kim regime, not from outside pressures, but from within.
그렇게 되면 외부의 압력에 의해서가 아니라 내부에 의해서 김정은 정권이 붕괴하게 되는 것을 보게 될 것입니다.
This is the opportunity for South Korea.
이것은 대한민국에 대한 큰 기회라고 생각합니다.
The world is now watching the peninsular issue. Everybody is wondering how to move forward from now on.
모든 사람들이 한반도에 주목을 하고 전 세계가 주목을 하고 앞으로 어떻게 나가야 될지를 궁금해하고
Even
있습니다.
America's commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, they still haven't developed their policy yet.
물론
Everything is in the air. And this
미국조차도
is where the opportunity is.
북한에 대한 비핵화를 목표로 세웠지만 구체적으로 어떻게 나갈지 아직 정하지 않았습니다.
And
그렇기
that is
때문에
why
여기 기회가 있는 것입니다.
vision is so important.
그렇기 때문에 이 비전이 대단히 중요한 것입니다.
How do we build consensus, not only here in South Korea, but in the international community, to find a solution to this global crisis?
한국뿐만 아니라 전 세계적으로 이 한반도의 위기를 해결하기 위한 그러한 그 동의를 어떻게 만들어내겠습니까?
As a person of faith and as someone whose family was committed to the unification of the Korean Peninsula, I think there's only one option.
신앙인으로서 그리고 저희 가정이 내력으로 한반도 독립과 통일에 그런 기여했던 그런 집안의 후손으로서 저는 한 가지의 옵션밖에 없다고 생각을 합니다.
Outside of the two options that currently the North Korean regime and the United States is now headed down towards.
지금 한반도 밖에서는 미국과 북한이 서로 지금 대결 국면에 치닫고 있습니다.
There's a third way,
제3의 길이 있습니다.
and that is the peaceful unification.
그것은 바로 평화
Korean Peninsula.
통일입니다.
If we understand that as an end goal, then we deal with the denuclearization issue, but more importantly, we close the chapter of the divided Koreas and open up a new chapter of a united Korean people fulfilling their national destiny in line with the 홍익인간 ideal to serve all humanity.
그 평화 통일이 한반도의 평화 통일이 궁극적인 목표가 된다면 북한의 비핵화는 물론이거니와 그런 분단의 비극의 장을 접고 통일의 그런 새로운 장을 열고 한국 국민들이 정체성을 규정하고 역사와 문화를 규정했던 홍익인간의 이상을 실현하는 그러한 통일된 한국을 건설할 수 있게 될 것입니다.
I think it's very important. And this is where really the onus lies upon South Korea.
이거 대단히 중요한 포인트입니다. 그리고 이 비전에 대한 주인이 누가 되어야 되겠습니까? 그것은 대한민국이 되어야 됩니다.
The problem with South Korea right now is they're all divided.
남한의 문제는 지금 남한이 다 갈라져 있다는 것입니다.
And there are many assumptions that many South Koreans have that fall within that Cold War framework.
그렇게 다양하게 갈라지고 분열된 그런 그 한반도 한국 사람들이 과거의 그런 냉전 체제의 시각 속에서 지금 현실을 바라보고 있다는
That does
점입니다.
not put into account the current geopolitical crisis that they are currently under,
그런데
because they have been numbed to the realities of division.
그런데 그러한 그 냉전 시대의 그런 시각은 과거의 그러한 그 입장 속에서 지금 현실에 대한 무감각화 때문에 지금 한반도를 지났고 어떻게 상황이 변하고 있는지에 대해서 정확히 모르고
That is
있다는
why
겁니다.
conferences such as this An initiative such as AKU is so significant in the history of our people.
그렇기 때문에 한국 역사를 놓고 봤을 때 이러한 국제적인 포럼, 이런 저희 세계 정세와 한반도의 미래를 그렇게 논하는 이 회의와 또 통일천사의 활동이 대단히 큰 의미를
Because it
갖고
brings the
있습니다.
vision and the clarity of the way forward in this time of global crisis.
왜냐하면 우리가 진행하는 이 통일운동은 분명한 그런 비전을 가지고 있고 방향성을 가지고 한반도의 위기 문제를 해결할 수 있는 길을 열어나가고 있기 때문입니다.
My hope is that the Moon Jae-in administration recognizes this historic opportunity that they have been afforded by fate.
제가 소망하는 것은 문재인 대통령과 남한 정부가 지금 운명에 의해서 주어진 이 절호의 기회를 올바로 깨닫고 잡을 수 있게 되는
And
것을 바라는
sets
것입니다.
as the national agenda of South Korea the peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula.
그래서 국가의 그 국책의 최고 우선순위로 한반도의 평화 통일을 세워 주창해야 되는 것입니다.
So as the nations within this geopolitical environment start to formulate their policy in terms of how to deal with the Korean nuclear issue, that becomes the alternative, the only sound and reasonable alternative that can deal with the nuclear issue, but more importantly, bring an end to the tragedy that was imposed upon the Korean people throughout the 20th century. The tragedy of colonialism and the tragedy of a divided peninsula due to the ideological divide between communism and the free world.
그래야지만 한반도를 중심으로 한 그런 주변 국가들이 이 한반도의 그 비핵화 문제에 대한 자신들의 정책을 결착함에 있어서 올바른 그런 정책을 세우고 무엇보다도 이러한 그 분단의 역사를 종결하고 또 그런 그 식민지 시대를 종결하고 또 한반도를 분단시킨 냉전 체제를 종식시키는 새로운 장을 열 수 있도록 해야 되는 것입니다.
I want to remind Koreans that in 1948 there was to be a national election for a united Korean government.
1948년도에 유엔 주재의 그러한 그 남북한 통합 그러한 그 선거가 있기로 예정돼 있었습니다.
Yet those elections never took place.
그러나 그 선거는 벌어지지 않았습니다.
And the two governments of North and South Korea were formed in its place that reflected the ideological divide of the Cold War.
그 대신 그러한 그 냉전 시대의 그러한 그 이데올로기를 반영하는 남한 정부와 북한 정부가 따로 설립되었습니다.
If we look at the current existing two nations as within the context of Korean history, this is but just a transitory process.
우리가 그러나 전체 한국 역사의 그런 맥락 속에서 현재 상황을 바라본다면 이 남한과 북한의 현 상황은
All Koreans, North and
일시적인
South,
것입니다.
should recognize that the existence of these two governments was meant to eventually lead to a unified Korea. That these two governments represents a transitory process for the creation of a one unified Korean nation.
남한과 북한은 모두가 이렇게 남북한이 분단된 그러한 정부를 세운 것은 통합된 그러한 나라를 건설하기 위한 임시 방편이었다는 것을 깨달아야 됩니다.
One thing I want to remind my good friend Dr. Nalapat is this.
닥터 라토바 박사에게 다시 한번 상기시켜드릴
I think it
포인트
would
하나
be a
있습니다.
grave mistake for the international community if it recognizes the national identity of North Korea.
북한을 국제적으로 인정하는 것은 큰 실수라고 저는 봅니다.
The position of the free world was that South Korea represented the Korean people.
국제사회의 입장은 남한 정부가 한국민을 대표하는 정부라는 것입니다. 국가라는 것입니다.
And it has always been the intention of the grandfather's regime, the father's regime, and now the son's regime to get that legitimacy of recognition from the international community.
그러나 북한은 김일성부터 김정일, 김정은까지 국제적으로 자신들이 합법적인 정부라고 인정받으려고 하는 것이 그들의 목표였습니다.
That should never happen.
네, 그것은 절대로 허용돼서는 안 됩니다.
These two governments represent a transitory moment in the history and the story of the Korean people.
한국 사람들의 역사에 있어서 이 두 정부는 임시적인 그런 그 중간 단계라는 것입니다.
What should be the end of that story should be the formation of a new nation. that all Koreans, both North and South, can call their home.
이 상황의 그런 최종 이야기는 결론은 무엇이 되어야 하느냐? 모든 남한 국민뿐만 아니라 북한 국민까지도 이것이 나의 조국이라고 할 수 있는 하나의 통합된 나라를 세우는 것입니다.
That upholds the fundamental ideals and values that the Korean people were founded upon, etched in the 홍익인간 ideology.
홍익인간 비전에 새겨져 있는 그런 한국 국민의 그런 근본 정신과 또 원칙과 가치를 실현하는 그러한 나라가 되어야 되는 것입니다.
That is why I believe it should be the national policy of South Korea to lead in that effort and to make that the agenda, regardless of which party, left or right, is in power. This should be the stated mission and goal of South Korea.
지금 나라를 운영하고 있는 그런 그 정권을 어느 정당이 가지고 있던지 간에 상관없이 그것을 초월하여서 평화로운 남북 통일, 그리고 통일 국가를 이루는 것이 대한민국의 국가의 최고 우선 정책이 되어서 전진해야 된다는 것입니다.
You know, we stand once again, like I said, in an inflection point in history.
우리는 지금 역사의 변곡점에 서 있습니다.
Next year, we're going to be hosting, South Korea is going to be hosting the Pyeongchang Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games here in Korea.
내년 2018년도에는 남한에서 평창 동계 올림픽이 개최됩니다.
It reminds me of 30 years ago when I, as a young man representing the Republic of Korea, participated in the Seoul Olympic Games as one of its athletes.
30년 전에 서울에서 열렸던 서울 올림픽에 저는 한국을 대표한 그러한 승마 선수로서 참가했던 기억이 되살아납니다.
1988 was a historic year in the history of South Korea because it also marked the first transition to a democratic process.
1988년은 한국 역사에서 대단히 의미 있는 그런 해입니다.
But more importantly, South Korea became the central point in which the world community, both the Soviet bloc and the free world, came together for the first time after the ban of the LA Games by the Soviet bloc and the ban of the Moscow Games by the United States and the free world.
한국의 민주화를 이루었고 또 무엇보다도 과거 소련과 미국이 평화 세계가 서로 각각의 올림픽을 보이콧했던 그러한 그 역사를 넘어서 서방과 그런 동구사권이 함께 다 모여서 올림픽을 했던 그러한 해입니다.
Next year, the Olympics will be coming back to South Korea.
내년에 다시 또 올림픽이 한국으로 찾아옵니다.
In this hotly defined issue of the nuclear crisis on the Korean Peninsula,
한반도의 이런 그 핵
where
문제
once again global attention is once again on the peninsula.
한반도에 대한 관심이 집중되는 이때에 또다시 그런 올림픽을 통해서 세계의 관심이 집중될 것입니다.
This is a historic moment.
이것은 정말로 역사적인 순간인 것입니다.
This is a historic moment.
역사적인 순간입니다.
Then in 2019, we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the end of the Soviet Union, or the historic representation of the end of the Soviet Union, which is the breaking down of the Berlin Wall, the wall that divided East and West.
2019년은 소비에트 연방의 그런 그 붕괴를 상징하는 그 베를린 장벽이 무너진 지 30주년 되는 해입니다.
But more importantly for Koreans, it marks the 100th year centennial of the March 1st, 1919 movement for independence.
그러나 한국 국민에게는 무엇보다도 2019년은 3.1 운동이 100주년이 되는 그러한 특별한 해인 것입니다.
From which the founders of both South and North Korea came from and were part of.
이 독립운동을 통해서 남북한의 그러한 그 지도자들이 나왔던 것입니다.
So remember what I told you when I wrote my book, The Korean Dream, in 2014. I looked to history, to vision, to unite the two Koreas and bring them out of the Cold War framework that was imposed upon us.
저는 2014년에 제가 쓴 코리안 드림을 통해서 한국 민족에게 그런 외부로부터 주어진 이런 그 냉전 시대의 그런 시각에서 벗어나서 한국
What
역사를
better way to once again remind the Koreans of both Koreas?
비전을 제시하기도 노력했습니다.
The hopes, the dreams, and the aspirations of the independent fighters that were seeking to develop a model ideal nation along the ideas of 홍익인간.
홍익인간의 그런 이상을 중심 삼고 그런 그 모델 국가를 건설하고자 노력했던 독립운동가들의 그 당시의 그런 그 국민들의 그런 열망과 소망을 다시 한번 자각시키고 깨우는 그러한 역사적인 순간이 또 어디 있겠습니까?
One of the reasons why this can become a global phenomenon is because the March 1st, 1919 movement for independence inspired the nationalist movements for independence around the world.
그래서 정말 역사적인 운동이 행사가 될 수 있습니다. 왜냐하면 1919년도에 시작된 이 독립운동은 전 세계적으로 그런 민족 자주 결의를 불이키는 그러한 운동들의 그러한 그 역사적인 그런 자극제가 되었던 것입니다.
Especially the young Mahatma Gandhi,
특별히 젊은 모하메드 간디에게 큰 영향을 미쳤습니다.
that later adopted the practices of the March 1st movement of nonviolent protest to lead to the national independence of the Indian people from British colonial rule.
3.1운동의 그러한 그 무폭력 그러한 그 독립운동이 그러한 그 간디로 하여금 그 영국 제국의 그러한 그 식민지 정책을 거부하고 인도의 독립을 이끄는 그러한 비폭력 무저항 운동의 그러한 그 동기가
If
됐던
we
것입니다.
understand this historical fact, the Korean people laid a seed in the 20th century that should blossom in the 21st century.
다시 말하면 20세기 초에 한국 국민이 바로 그러한 씨앗을 심었습니다. 이제 21세기에 그 씨앗이 싹 틔우고 열매를 맺어야 하는 때인 것입니다.
And lead the world to peace by solving the most important geopolitical issue in the world today, which is the crisis on the Korean Peninsula.
지금 세계가 직면한 가장 그런 생존의 위협을 주는 그런 문제, 바로 한반도의 비핵화 문제를 해결함으로써 그런 열매를 맺어야 되는 것입니다.
What better way to galvanize global opinion, and what better way for us as Koreans to reignite our sense of our Korean identity and our sense of our Korean destiny.
이렇게 다시 한번 한국민의 정체성과 또 한국의 그 운명을 우리가 한번 거기에다 힘을 더해주고 또 전 세계의 모든 의견들을 그런 그 지지를 공감을 불러내는 이러한 그 일들을 하는 데 있어서 2019년도 100주년 3.1운동 기념만큼 또 좋은 기회가 어디 있겠습니까?
So I want to invite all of you to participate in the 1K global campaign.
그래서 여러분 모두가 이러한 원 코리아 글로벌 캠페인에 다 참여해 주실 것을 부탁드립니다.
Tied to the centennial celebration of the independence movement that inspired and built the hopes of the Korean people and the development of a new Korean nation that can be inspiration to the rest of the world.
새로운 그러한 한국을 건설하고 또 그러한 그 열망과 노력이 전 세계 모든 사람들을 일깨웠던 그러한 한국의 그러한 정신을 다시 한번 들추는데 여러분들이 동참해 주시기를 부탁드립니다.
Thank you very much.
감사합니다.